Now you started the comedy in the 70s. It was kind of like a comedy boom going on then. A lot of things popping, both in New York and
No, there was no boom. There was no boom yet. There was no boom yet. There was the Catch a Rising Star and the Improv, and there was the Comedy Store in L.A. and the Ice House in Pasadena, and whatever in San Francisco. But there was no comedy boom. We ushered in the comedy boom in Long Island.
right, yeah,
Um, I started in 1979. I officially, like, my official start date in this comedy is the first time I got paid for telling jokes and playing the guitar, as opposed to playing the guitar and telling jokes. That was my official start, January 1st. And that's when we started at Cinnamon and started the dial joke and stuff. But I was 31. I started so late. Most guys start 18, 20,
right,
22,
yeah,
So I was already an old man. I should have been retired and had my feet up, but we started the show at Cinnamon, and then I was putting shows on everywhere on Long Island. I mean, everywhere, the Park Lounge and the Country Squire and Reinhardt's here in Bayville and the Purple Onion out in wherever, and Heckle and Jekyll's in Massapequa. There must countless bars. I'd say, look, I'll
right,
bring in the amplifier and bring the guys, and it's not a band. It's just people telling jokes. It'll be fun. And I'll, $150, $200, whatever it was. The guys were thrilled because they had no place to work. They had no place to work. All of a sudden I'm giving them work and they're making money. So everybody was thrilled that comics started coming out from the city to work for me or for me and Richie, because in the city, they're getting $5. They come out to Long Island, they're getting drunk, they're getting laid, they're getting stoned, and they're getting money.
right,
So
yes,
they loved it. And one of the guys in the city with the car was Peter Bales, who's now my co-host in
that's
in
awesome,
the
yeah,
in Stand Up Memories. But he would bring a carload of people, and they'd all come out, and it was a very exciting time. And that's just when the boom started to hit. There were more and more shows, and it was East Side Comedy Club, and then there was Brokerage, and then there was Governors, and then I was doing all these other shows, and all of a sudden the shows are popping up all around, and it was very interesting. A lot of these towns would bring in 3 New York comedians, New York, New Jersey, comics,
right,
and at some point, some of these club owners decided, hey, because there was always an MC. One of the 3 comedians would be an MC, and in the beginning there was no, middle act, headliner, MC. Those lines of demarcation were not there yet. It was just the 3 guys, and one guy would be the MC. And the club owners got the bright idea. Wait, you know what I'll do? I'll have a local DJ come in and let them host the show. That way they can talk about it on the radio, and it's be great promotion. And it was so fun to watch because every DJ in all these cities, all the DJs think they're so funny because everybody they come in contact with is somebody that they can help.
right,
Like if
right,
they go
yeah,
up, if they run into a car dealer and they say hello, oh Charlie, you're so funny, why don't you
right, yeah,
mention my car
exactly,
dealership.
right,
So they
right,
think they're so funny. Also, they're so constrained language-wise on the radio. They cannot wait to get on stage and say fuck. So these guys I watched it so many times. They'd come on stage and they'd find out so fast that just saying fuck is not enough to get a laugh. And they became the biggest fans of comedy because they would be up there and they would eat it so bad because they weren't funny and they had nothing funny to say. And they didn't have the personality for live. They used to sit behind a microphone with no response from anybody and just assuming, they're setting the world on fire. Ooh, how you doing? Here's the next Billy Joel song. Ooh, oh, I'm a riot. Fuck. How
right.
you doing, folks? Did you hear me, folks? I said, fuck. Are you out there? It was such an amazing time, just such amazing growth. And then it became MC headliners. Then they wound up getting local comedians for the MC spots. It all evolved, you know. It all evolved slowly. It was just amazing fun. And when
And
I was
it's
on the road in like 1984 or 5, I did like 2 months in the South, and my middle act was Rich Jenny,
oh
who
wow.
became one of the funniest guys on the planet. And he was my middle act. And, you know, we were on the road together for 2 months. It was just the most amazing time in the world. People can't believe I was out with him. And it was just spectacular. You know, driving, you know, we weren't flying. We're driving in my Volvo all over the world,
Wow.
and just yucking it up and drinking and banging and smoking pot and having a great old time, you know.
And Richard Jenny was one of the greats, and a Long Island guy also. And you know, God bless him. You know, it's a shame, you know, but it's pretty cool that you got to be a part of it. Like, so you've what's really awesome is that you've been in comedy for the whole thing, and you've seen so much evolve, and you know, not a lot of people can say that they've seen all these things in the evolution of not only stand-up comedy but radio. You know, like you said before, vaudeville became radio, radio became TV, etc. You know, it just, there's something special to have gone through all of that and still be still on top of your game and still performing, and you know, you
You know,
perform this weekend.
there's so many monumental things. Like we used to meet at the Improv sometimes when there was a guy named Jim Balatzos that used to put on shows the same way I did. And, you know, a bunch of guys would get in his car and go do a gig. And one night I went in, you know, we'd meet at the Improv, and I went in and got in his van, and it was a Max Delcelli and me and this little troll with a beret. And he said, "How you doing?" And Balatzos goes, "Jackie, this is Sam. I just brought him out from California, and I want to see how he goes over out here." And I said, "Nice to meet you." And we went to the middle of nowhere, New Jersey. And he said, "Jackie, do some of your show, but save some, because I don't know how Sam's going to go over, because he's very different." And I'm telling you, when Kennison went up on that stage, I thought those people's heads were going to explode. I mean, we're in the middle of New Jersey where they actually had to tie up the disco ball. And these people were just not used to people their own age turning around the other way on stage and telling them jokes. They used to watching Carson. You know,
Right,
live
yeah.
comedy was just unheard of. And Sam it was just, and I didn't know what to expect, and it was incredible. And we were already drunk by the time we got there. It was almost in, you know, the other side of the world. And then, you know, God, by the time we got back to the Improv, I don't know. I hope I was taking the train. We were fried, but we had such a nice bond. And then, you know, a couple of years later, he comes walking the Stern Show, and Sam's like, "What are you doing here, man?" I said, "I work here." You know, "Wow, it's good to see you, man." You know, so we were fast friends from way back. You know,
Wow, that's
they
cool.
just
It's got to be
all
yeah,
those guys.
yeah, to see these guys, you know, before they popped, like, you know, in the early you know, days, like when no one knew who Kinnison was, and to see the crowd reaction for the first time, and all that's pretty cool, man.
It was. I remember going up on stage after I brought him off and looking out. And you ever see the black and white footage of the people in the movie theater that are all wearing 3D glasses, and they're like that, you know? I go out in the audience, they were like that. They had just seen a ghost. It was just great.
And that's
And
another.
I did a video in 1985 or 86 with a whole bunch of people, with Red Fox, and it's called Red Fox's Dirty Dirty Jokes. And Dice says that was his launching pad. That videotape really got him out there. With me and Dice and Robert Schimmel
Oh
and the
yeah.
last girl to have sex with Lenny Bruce and Ronaldo Ray, who was Red Fox's, protege. And it was so funny. He said, like, when I met him, he said, "Yeah, Jackie Marlin, I heard about you and your dirty records. I heard about you and your dirty records." It's so fun. I love that Fox knew who I was. That was,
That's
he introduced me. Now, Jackie Marlin, inventor of Dial a Dirty Joke. Let's give it up for him. I still have that little clip, which is just fantastic.
yeah, that's priceless, man. These are, comedy icons, and because you were there, you probably back in the day when with Pryor and Carlin and all those guys, you ever come across them, and how was that?
I I I never met Richard Pryor. I really wish I had him. George Carlin came on the show a couple times, and he was great. And it's funny. It's too long a story, but Dennis Blair wound up being an opening act for Rodney, and then for Joan Rivers, and then for a long time for George Carlin.
Right,
And at
yeah.
one point, Dennis said, sometimes when we're riding in the car, George would say, put Martling on, because he'd want, and we just throw in one of your stupid cassettes just to hear the stupid, dirty jokes and laugh. But now Dennis doesn't remember that. And he's my friend, but I'm like, I wouldn't have made that up. I wouldn't have made
Right.
that up. But Carlin, was just an amazing character. And I remember so distinctly as a kid, here's this comedian, and all of a sudden he just went through the transition. Like all of a sudden they took this Midwest comedian and just dragged him through the pot and the ass, and all of a sudden here's the guy in the beard and the counterculture, and he was just super, just a super character.
Yeah, it's always cool when you see the kind of the evolution of those guys, for going from the '60s into the '70s, and happened to both of them, Pryor and Carlin. They both kind of emerged, they kind of evolved with the times. They both kind of, from where they started to become these voices of the generation, and it's just interesting to see
Uh,
that kind of repeating over and over, through the decades.